bathroom. It's just a total disaster. But he will say, we're working on it, and Kamala Harris is taking care of it. But I do think
those are the compassion cages, Gerry. That's what we'll call it.
Oh, right. The compassionate cages. They're different than Trump cages, where Trump had 2 or 3 kids in a cage. They have 2,000 kids in a cage, which is so compassionate. But there'll be 1 or 2 stumbles because he is incapable of getting through anything without stumbling. But he'll make it through okay. It'll give his acolytes, his fans at CNN and MSNBC and the Globe and the New York Times a chance to say, see, he's not so feeble. He's not so frail. He made it through okay. He knocked that question from Peter Doocy. He knocked that out of the park. He'll go, 20 minutes and then shuffle off with the old man walk in the wrong direction. And
he has to call on Doocy, right? Because there's no other conservative media there, right? They probably blocked like OAN and Newsmax.
Well, I think there was Jen Psaki's getting grilled a few times by the Newsmax reporter. I don't know about OAN, but there are some, not many, in the mainstream media who are a little annoyed with the border. Because, you're not allowed to take pictures and you're not allowed to cover it. They won't give you an honest answer. So they're a little annoyed at that. There might be something sort of little kind of hostile from a mainstream media reporter about the border. But, I mean, if you were his handler and he's got dementia and he's a lost soul, but you could have him do one thing right, it will be handle the border questions. I mean, you could, anything else, whatever they ask about other things, he can avoid it, I think, because they're not on people's minds. Obviously, the mass shooting question will just be, we need ban AR-15s, weapons of war, and magazines. We got to ban magazines, and we need the loopholes. We have to get rid of loopholes. I mean, it's just going to be the same.
What are the loopholes exactly? They keep saying we should cut them down. What are they?
I don't even know. Well, it's a good question, Turtle Boy. What is a loophole?
Yeah, like
either it's legal or it's not. I love when they accuse the rich of avoiding paying taxes by using loopholes. Well, wouldn't another word for loophole be the law?
They keep talking about like how it's easier to buy a gun than it is to get to vote. That's like the new funny thing to say. That all the cool libs are saying it on Twitter.
David Hogg was tweeting it.
It's not just him. I mean, it's prominent people, and I lived in Worcester for a while. You couldn't get a gun in Worcester. It was extremely hard because your local police chief is in charge of handing out LTCs, whereas voting was never a problem, ever. Like, voting is extremely easy. Anyone can vote in this country. And if you can't figure out how to vote, you're very stupid, and I don't want you to vote anyway. I would even go so far, Gerry, to argue that since guns are a right, correct? Second Amendment?
Correct.
So if healthcare is a right, and if you can't afford healthcare, then the government must pay for your healthcare, right? So if guns are a right and I can't afford a gun, shouldn't the government buy me an AR-15?
Well, not an AR-15. Maybe they'll just buy you like a 9mm.
They should buy me something.
Buy you a musket. That just to be true to the Constitution, they'll buy you a musket.
It's my right.
It's the only right that costs money, I believe, in the Bill of Rights. The only right that costs money, which I'm okay. I don't want them giving guns to people for free. They give enough, but the idea that, and you saw this in real time. First of all, it's the dumbest talking point of all time, that easier to buy a gun than it is to vote. Everyone knows how ridiculously easy it is to vote. It should be tougher. Drive-by voting is a scam, or mail-in voting, whatever. Drive-by registration, month-long early voting. That's a scandal. That was a scandal designed to get Democrats elected. It worked. And now Republicans have to fight like hell to get it back to the way the founding fathers wanted it. You vote on election day and in person, and then we could turn around this madness in the country where 80 million people vote for a guy who wears his underwear on the outside of his pants and doesn't know what day it is. That's the reason we have him, is because they made, under the guise of COVID, they made voting so easy that even morons, apathetic people who couldn't give a damn, 4 years ago, 8 years ago, are suddenly voting because they managed to make it as so easy. The idea, you can't even buy in Wyoming, you can't even buy a shotgun as easy as it is to vote, as you can to vote. And I retweeted somebody, a woman who'd been sexually assaulted, tried to get a gun, and she listed all the things she had to do. She had to like write an essay for the police chief. She had to have 4 people write letters in support of her. It is laughable to think it's that easy to get a gun. Well, first of all, it depends where you are. Secondly, it depends what kind of gun. But anywhere you go, it's harder than voting. Much, much, much harder. And the idea that voting is difficult, I get that feedback too when I tweeted this, and you do too, with saying, "Oh yeah, but you're not down south in Atlanta where they wait 3 hours in the rain." And I'm like, who's the election officials?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Elections are locally run. So, and you never hear this happening in red counties, Gerry.
No.
Like, red counties, it's always the blue counties that screw everything up. It's like, so talk to your local idiot mayor down there, who's more than likely a Democrat, and talk to them about why the hell it's so goddamn inefficient.
Here's the woman. Her name is Liz Joy. She's a candidate for Congress in New York. Former candidate for Congress, didn't win, but and she's got pictures of her body all bruised up because she was attacked. And she said, to get my pistol permit, I had to take a New York safety class. I had to take and pass a handwritten test. I had to pass target class with a certified instructor. I had to get 4 letters written on my behalf for the judge. I had to write a letter myself to the judge on why I wanted a permit. Also, I could prevent this from happening again. And she tweeted a picture of her bruised legs and arms because she was attacked. It is amazing. These people are so concerned with women, and we'll get to that.
And tell me, what is the purpose of that? Do you think the mass shooter is going to be like, well, I was going to shoot up a grocery store, but then you asked me that question, and you got me. I'm done. I got you win. Gun control.
Well, I
you win
this
this
question yesterday, Turtleboy. He used an AR-15, and I know that's target for the gun grabbing crowd, and I understand that it's scary. AR-15s are scary, and some people are just really fanatical about their AR-15s. But what do you think 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗲 would have done if he couldn't get an AR-15? Would he have just gone bowling, or would he have gone and got a different gun? Because
the argument, okay, I'll do Reamer voice, Gerry. You can kill people so much faster with an AR-15. So if we have a mental health crisis in this country, and a lot of people are dealing with this stuff, at least we should be able to limit the damage that they do if they do get their hands on a gun.
Okay, then, so a week before, Robert Long didn't get an AR-15. He got a 9mm pistol, I believe, that day, and killed 8. So,
Gerry, if it had been an AR-15, it would have been 58.
Would have been 10?
58.
So I'm almost tempted to do this, and I know it's stupid, but how about we do everything they want, everything David Hogg wants? We ban the AR-15, background checks, close the loopholes, and everything else, psychological tests, red flag laws. Do you think someone like 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗲 or Robert Long, goes on the straight and narrow and doesn't kill anyone because they can't get a hold of?
No, like you said yesterday, they'll get their hands on a pressure cooker. They'll figure something out. They couldn't get guns in Cambridge either, but they got them.
Maybe they won't get. Maybe they won't kill 10. Maybe he'll kill 7 or 8. It's still going to be. You still got an evil man intent on killing innocent people. That doesn't change.
That's a problem.
If you make him use a different kind of gun, he will. But whatever. It's so predictable. It's so it's senseless. The whole idea that a week ago it was white supremacy and anti-Asian. This week it was a white guy until it wasn't a white guy. And when it wasn't a white guy, once we found out it was a Muslim terrorist, it was, what about the gun?
Yeah.
Not what about the Muslim? Why was it so easy for the Syrian family to get into this country? And why, can't they assimilate? Why does this kid who was made fun of in high school feel like he can go out and kill 10 people?
Well, Islamophobia, Gerry. Islamophobia.
That's coming. That's today. I predict today you'll see a story in the Washington Post from somebody in New York Times.
And time out. And I'd just like to point out, and this was a brilliant tweet of mine last night at Dr. Turtleboy. I'd like to point this out. Last week, 6 of the 8 people that were killed were Asian, and the gunman was white. And we were told that there is a white supremacy anti-Asian problem in this country that needs to be addressed. Well, this week there was 10 white people. Every single one of them was white. Was killed by a Middle Eastern person. So do we have a Middle Eastern supremacy problem in this country? Why are white people being targeted, Gerry? I mean, I'm being facetious about it, but if we're going to be consistent, if race matters, if the race of the shooters and the victims matters, how come it doesn't matter now?
And you're right, it's a good question, it's a good point, but 𝗵𝗄𝐿 could today in court say, I just hate white people, and it won't be an issue with the media. Even if he says it, it won't be an issue. Even if he declares it was all about race, we will move on to the gun, to mental health, to background checks or whatever. It won't be about race. That's just how it works. The guy in Atlanta, Robert Long, said it wasn't about race. They said it was about race. This guy, and he will say, it's always kind of funny when a Muslim terrorist kills innocent people and say the motive is still unknown. Gee, what do you think the motive could be? And it'll be left to one or two people, online, people who've been banned from Twitter and Facebook, to ask, was he radicalized in a mosque, in a Denver mosque, in a Boulder mosque? Was he radicalized online? Was there a particular imam that radicalized?
You know what though, Gerry? Like, I just don't care. I mean, a lot, and I know the right will do this, and I know it's like a leftist tactic, and usually I adopt leftist tactics. I just don't care where he was radicalized. All I know is he's a piece of shit for doing it. And so what? We're supposed to just shut down mosques because, I mean, I know where this is going. It's the same thing that they're trying to do to us. Like, well, you were radicalized on YouTube and QAnon, so we need to ban those and get people off of here. It's like, I don't like the direction we go when we start talking about where a person was radicalized, because then we try to silence the speech that's coming out of those areas. And I have a problem with that, Gerry.
I think the follow-up is, where did he go wrong? Well, how did this happen? Did he learn? Why did he choose this path? And I do think his family should be held responsible at some level, if only for public shaming, if they knew he bought a gun, if he knew he was full of hate and full of anger, and they thought they took it away, his family. I'm not sure how you do that.
He was called a fucking terrorist at school and then beat the shit out of a kid. Like, the signs were fucking everywhere, right?
They always are.
I mean, well, that kid's vindicated, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yes, he is.
He called it. But, I mean, again, this will be asked today of 𝗕𝗵𝘇ce Joe, and it'll be, background checks and every other stupid thing, every other same old thing, and let's ban the AR-15, and I got a piece of legislation on my desk, I'm ready to sign it, and I feel like saying, go ahead, do that, just shut up about it, do that, because I don't think it'll change anything. And by the way, I think it was Monday morning, Sunday night, 15 people were shot and killed in Chicago. 15. Want to talk about race, Turtle Boy?
Was it white supremacists, Gerry?
I don't think it was a Proud Boy.
A
Proud Boy and an
Bugaloos?
A Proud Boy and an Oath Keeper. They conspired. They were talking.
And a 3%er maybe in there? Yeah.
A 3%er.
And they were on Parler talking about it. I don't know if you know that.
It is amazing that 15 people killed, innocent people, some children, people, trying to are killed in the city. They're all of one race, and you don't even know about it. You don't even hear about it. It's not even an issue. This is 10 people killed, all white people, by one Muslim terrorist, and it's all you hear about for 3 days. It's just the double standard, the disparity is just, it never ends. But we'll see today. I'll be watching. I'll be ready to chuckle when Joe kind of wanders off stage and out into traffic, and hopefully he'll be okay. They'll put up the silver alert and bring him back home to the White House. But he'll blame everything, He'll place everything in the capable hands of Kamala Harris, who will be down at the border laughing hysterically at nothing.
Oh, God.
I want to get to one thing Biden said yesterday because it's relevant. A couple of things that happened at the White House. One is our president, the 46th president, who has not yet been deemed unfit for office and replaced by Kamala, said yesterday he's big into this promoting women, and I guess promoting all minorities or all marginalized communities. And now we have a gay cabinet member, the first gay cabinet member ever, or at least since
Richard Grenell not count anymore. Does he not exist?
At least since Rick Grenell 6 months ago, but like the first gay cabinet member in months. And then we had in Pete Buttigieg, and then we have the first transgender cabinet member in Rachel Levine, former Richard Levine from Wakefield, Massachusetts, the pride of Wakefield, who is only in the cabinet, or not, she's not in the cabinet, she's an assistant secretary, but she needed Senate confirmation. She got it, 52-48. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski voted for this person because this person used to be Richard, is now Rachel, used to be a man, now is a woman, decided 10 years ago in her 50s to transition, and I think that's
but
wonderful.
ironically, if Rachel Levine had tried this 15 years ago, 𝗦𝗫𝗃𝗃 and Tammy Duckworth would not have voted for her because she would have been a dude still, and they don't
That's
vote for guys.
And I know Tucker covered this, and it was a big deal in some places yesterday, and it should be. 𝗦𝗫𝗃𝗃, the dumbest person in the Senate, and Tammy Duckworth, a disabled veteran, declared yesterday, and it should be the biggest story ever, that they will not vote for anyone unless they're a minority, a woman, or LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Because so you could have a brilliant,
Yeah, 𝗦𝗵C𝗵𝘃 is very lucky that he likes dudes, or else he'd be unemployed right now.
He wouldn't have a shot. So if you're say I don't know, Mike Pompeo, and say there's a Democrat version of Mike Pompeo, first in his class at West Point, impeccable record, incredible guy, smart, dogged guy, they would vote no because he likes females and he doesn't he identifies as a white man. That is, flat out racism. That's a definition of racism. They will not vote for any white people. They don't like white people.
They're announcing it. It's like,
hey, right, they're not hiding it. Unlike, whatever racism in the power. I guess.
So that means like Christine Blasey Ford couldn't even get hired.
Well, she's a woman.
That woman isn't on the list.
Oh, it isn't?
I don't think so. I don't think women was on the list. I think it was people of color and LGBTQ.
Right. So, what about women with purple hair like Megan Rapp? Oh, she's
LGBT. Yeah, she's
yeah. So if you're a guy and you want to be in the cabinet and you really, really want to get the thumbs up from these two,
hang out with 𝗵𝗃 for a weekend and you'll be all set. Trust me. Take a trip to the bathhouse.
It might not be your thing, but damn good job. I mean, you get to be in the cabinet, so it's worth it. It's worth a little bit of fun with 𝗵𝗃s. Anyway, back to Joe Biden, who is, just so transparent, this identity politics, this effort to promote people strictly on their immutable characteristics, on how they were born, not what they accomplished, not what they'll do on the job. It's just how you were born. You were born with dark skin. You were born female. You were born gay. You were born bisexual. You will be confirmed by the Senate, or at least by these couple of senators. And if you're transgender, you're in. Democrats did not care. I want to move on from this, but Rachel Levine was a disaster as the Secretary of Health in Pennsylvania. Her record is abysmal. She, like Cuomo, ordered coronavirus positive patients into nursing homes. She killed thousands of senior citizens in Pennsylvania, and you know what makes it worse?
She got her mother out first.
She pulled her 95-year-old mother out of a nursing home and put her in the dead of the night, put her in a hotel. She survived. All the thousands of other parents did not survive. If that's not the most despicable thing a public health official has ever done, I don't know.
It's like the captain of the Titanic jumping on the first lifeboat, Gerry.
Right, and shoving people out of the way to get on the lifeboat. And this woman, Rachel Levine, was confirmed by every single Democrat and two turncoat Republicans, not because she has a great record as a public health official. Clearly she does not. She was confirmed for one reason. She is now a woman, used to be a man. That's it. It makes history. Look at us. We have a transgender assistant secretary of health. Congratulations. The country has lost its mind. The people, the elderly in Pennsylvania, just like the children, the girls playing high school sports, the elderly in Pennsylvania do not matter. They're collateral damage. We have a bigger goal in sight, and that's to get this person confirmed, and it worked. But yesterday was a big day for the ladies, big day for women. Rachel Levine was confirmed, and Megan Rapinoe made her appearance at the White House, and we'll get to her. But first, Joe Biden made a declaration that was so absurd. I was trying to come up with a response to his ridiculous declaration, and it was just, I didn't even know where to begin. Everyone had a different suggestion. Here it is. Joe Biden, I don't know if you have this, Callahan, said that women can do everything better than men. Literally.
You know, I've told my daughters, granddaughters, from the time they were old enough to understand what I was saying, and I mean it, there's not a single thing a man can do that a woman can't do as well or better. Not a single thing. I was among the first senators ever to appoint a woman to the Naval Academy. I was just able to, as President of the United States, appoint 2 women as 4-star generals who now are combatant.
All right. I mean, shouldn't there be a limit to your obsession with identity politics? When you say something on its face so absurd that there's nothing a man can do that a woman can't do as well or better. I mean, I thought of 100 things. I threw out just a glib response and said, pull-ups. Women can't do pull-ups.
They can't?
Push-up.
Women can't do pull-ups?
They can't do.
Ronda Rousey can do way more pull-ups than me. Come on. She can do way more.
Zdeno Chara weighs 250 pounds. He did 35 pull-ups. It was one of the most amazing feats I've ever seen.
They can do
Tim Hasselbeck did 30-something, 36 pull-ups in like a jacket, a tie, and dress clothes. Some guys, I mean, a woman, the most fit women in the world could probably do 10. Anyway, I'm not debating that. Of course, men can do more. They're stronger. They have stronger upper bodies.
Women can do the splits. I always wished I could do that.
I didn't say there wasn't things. I do yoga. Women are much
way better
at yoga.
Way better.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're not saying women can do some things better, men can do. He says women can do everything better. Why does, and I know it's a rhetorical question, why does Joe Biden feel compelled to lie to the world? First of all, he said, I tell my daughters, correct me if I'm wrong, he has one daughter, right?
And she died.
No. Oh, that's right. He had a daughter who died, and I guess you could count. She died as a little child, but he has one daughter so he has one living daughter. So
he has a living daughter?
Yes, with Jill, I believe.
They have kids? I didn't even know they had kids.
I believe. Let me look it up.
𝗟𝗶𝘃 and Ashley. Let me see.
I thought those were
which one
kids.
So I guess he told you're right. He has a daughter who passed away. But anyway, and it told his granddaughters. And if you told this, so I told my daughter, you guys have daughters. If you tell your daughter, there's nothing men can do better than women, aren't they going to say, what about fighting, Dad? What about running? What about jumping? What about basketball? What about hockey? I mean, the list is endless, and obviously there's all kinds of funny, stupid, glib things. I got all the responses from people saying, "What about peeing standing up?
What about stand-up comedy?" Amy Schumer is like
excellent one. I thought that too, because I mean, I say this all the time. Men are better at writing nonfiction. I mean, rather writing fiction, better at writing novels. Harlan Coben, and the guys can write. There aren't as many women, but women write better nonfiction. Like Ann Coulter and Michelle Malkin, and the people like they're really good reporters out there. And you see, people like Jackie McMullen, really good magazine writers. But fiction, I think men are better. I'm not going to sit here and debate it all day, but the point is, of course, there's things men do better. He mentioned the Navy, and he made an appointment to the Naval Academy, and he mentioned these military leaders, these generals that he's promoted. The Navy SEALs have allowed women to try out, right? To try to become Navy SEAls. You know how many have passed the test? Do you know how many have passed the test? Zero. They're allowed. They're invited. Come on in. Try to become a SEAL.
Sounds sexist, Gerry.
There are no female SEAls. There never have been, because it's really physically hard. But what's the point of lying to the world, lying to your children and grandchildren? What is the point?
Because it sounds good. Like, everything the Democrats do is just based on sounding good. They're so good at branding. Like, Black Lives Matter. We go back to that again. Every slogan they come up with is genius. And it's just like, obviously we know that's not true. Joe Biden didn't write that speech, obviously, but it was workshopped. And some people are like, yeah, we'll just throw it in there. we know this isn't true, right? Yeah, but yeah, who gives a shit? Just sounds good. Just say it.
But your kids, whether they're young kids like yours and or high school or college or grown-ups, they know it's absurd. They know that men are stronger and faster and more physically able to do things, and they also know men are better at whatever stand-up comedy or they know there are things men do better and other things women do better. Why do you have to make the point or just flat out lie that say women could do things better? I mean, put them in the ring and fight.
Because everything they say is a lie, Gerry. They say men can be women. I mean, if we can't challenge that lie, then what can we challenge?
All right. Well, to make the point, and I guess he thought he was making a point, but they invite one 𝗦𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃, purple-headed a narcissistic soccer star for the U.S. women's team. I mean, one of the most famous women in America, and the definition of liberal privilege. She has purple hair. She likes women. She doesn't like men. She is a outspoken, feminist and activist and radical liberal. All those things add up to this woman is untouchable. You would agree that she is perhaps the single most privileged outside of the Obama family. Is there a more privileged person in America than 𝗦𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃?
No, and she's also very wealthy. She talks a lot about pay, but I'm quite sure that she has many millions of dollars worth of endorsements, and she's doing pretty goddamn well for herself.
So 𝗦𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 went in. She was in the White House. Is it the briefing room where you bring people like this?
Yeah.
Stood up there, and I don't know if you have it, Dave, but talked about how she has been discriminated against.
Yeah, lots of oppressed people
and
speak at podiums.
Despite those wins, I've been devalued, I've been disrespected, and dismissed because I am a woman. And I've been told that I don't deserve any more than less because I am a woman.
No one ever said that.
You see, despite all the wins, I'm still paid less than men who do the same job that I do. For each trophy, of which there are many, and for each win, for each tie, and for each time that we play, it's less. And I know there are millions of people who are marginalized by gender in the world and experience the same thing in their jobs. And I know that there are people who experience even more, where the layers of discrimination continue to stack against them. And I and my teammates are here for them. We on the U.S. Women's National Team today are here because of them.
Okay, you mentioned, I mentioned,
I don't even know where to start.
Biden. That's a good point. Biden, lying, saying women can do everything better than men, just pandering. Pandering is the word. Lying, straw. This is the perfect person, the perfect example to bring before the country and say, look, here's more myth making. The idea that they do the same job. If they don't do the same job, it's like saying, why don't if the Celtics are all making $8 million a year, why doesn't that men's team at the Y League? Why don't they make it? They play the same sport,
right? And I'd like to point out all of this. Like we're doing better than the men's team. Like, can we enough with that, please? Like most of the countries that the men play. Like, how do you think the girls' soccer program in Portugal is, Gerry? Do they seem like a very progressive country? Have you met Portuguese families before around here? They're some of the most traditional people in the world. Women don't play sports. They don't, you know what I mean? They're living in the freaking 19th century. So when you go these countries, of course the men are much better because the men play sports and the girls don't. So America is one of the only countries in the world where girls are playing sports from a young age. We should win in all girls sports. Whereas soccer, everybody's playing.
And there's like 6 teams in women's soccer in the whole world, and the U.S. wins, and it's amazing. In the men's, there's like 300 teams. I'm looking at the number. You're right. Where to begin on this? I'm looking at the numbers. Somebody sent me the disparity in World Cup prize money and revenue. The men World Cup is from the 2018 Men's World Cup. Total revenue, $6 billion for the men. $6 billion for the men's World Cup. The women's World Cup, is that true? Could that be true? Total revenue, 131 million. 6 billion to 130 million. That would be 40 times, I believe, bigger or something like that. It's the men make more, the revenue's more. I realize the women in America, they win more because there's not a lot of competition and people like them and support them. You know what she should be saying? The exact opposite for what she said. She's not being discriminated against and marginalized because she's a woman. She's being elevated because she's a woman. And this is the United States, and they want the women's team to be celebrated. The media does, the White House. She's speaking at the White House, talking about how she's been marginalized.
She's very oppressed. I know.
Does she even understand the irony, the lack of self-awareness that this purple-headed egomaniac can stand up, who's making a fortune, who's worth a lot of money, who's making a lot of money to play soccer, even though most of the world doesn't give a damn about women's soccer. Again, revenue 6 billion to 130 million. That's and the prize money is exponentially higher for men. The pay is higher because they make more. They bring in more. As the Babylon Bee said, women's soccer player shocked that the law of supply and demand is taking place here in the world of world of professional soccer. That is supply and demand.
If women want to be paid more, then go into engineering, go into architecture, go where the money is. That's why the pay gap exists, is because women gravitate towards jobs that don't tend to pay as much money as men's as the jobs that men gravitate towards.
Does that data break down what the revenue, what portion the men get in pay from the revenue?
Yes, the women get a higher percentage.
The men get 400 million of the 6 point. The men get 400 million. The women get 30 million. The percentage, the women's percentage, you're right, is much higher.
Much higher.
Men get 400 million. Women get 30 million. So
you can't get paid with money that doesn't exist. What do these people think?
That's not just for USA soccer, right? That's globally in the World Cup.
That's World Cup. That's the World Cup. That's the world.
Couldn't they just?
Here's the breakdown. 400 million for men is the total prize money for men. 30 million for women. The winner's prize money, the winning team, the men get 38 million, the women get 4 million. And the reason is that the men bring in, again, 6 billion. The women bring in 130 million. Megan Rapinoe, she's obviously, completely, blind to this or whatever, so lacks the self-awareness, but she's not a moron. She knows the disparity is in the revenue, is in the level of popularity. It's not even close. It's like the WNBA, the women's NCAA demanding equal accommodations. They're demanding the same kind of weight room and hotel rooms and flights as the men. When the men make, and we went over the numbers the other day, the men make almost $1 billion a year in their TV deal. I think it's at 900 million with the various TBSs and TNTs and CBSs. Their contract pays them almost $1 billion. It goes up to, in 2015, it goes over $1 billion. The men bring in 1.1 billion. The women is a fraction of that. In fact, the women operate at a loss. They have this big contract with ESPN. It's kind of hard to delineate because it's a contract that calls for a whole bunch of minor sports to be on ESPN, including like volleyball and whatever. I don't know what else they put on there, baseball, softball, and all together they make a fraction of what the men make. The women's tournament operates at a loss. The men's tournament brings in almost $1 billion a year, and they're demanding, and not just demanding it with indignation. Like, how dare you give them a big?
Okay, so you realize, the most of these professional athletes, LeBron James probably makes more money in endorsements, I'm guessing, than he does getting paid by the NBA. I'm just going to guess. I don't know that as a fact, but I'm guessing.
Oh, you mean that $1 billion lifetime deal he signed with?
Much more.
Yeah,
right. So, my point here is this, nobody is more marketable than the United States women's soccer team, right? They're people love them, girls love them. Why aren't they doing it? Why isn't Nike marketing them better? Why isn't Nike, this progressive organization, giving out gigantic contracts to every single member of the women's soccer team? Why aren't they? Because that's where the money is made, in endorsements. And what are they doing to market themselves? If they're counting on revenue from the World Cup, you're not going to get anything because there is no revenue. So why don't you go out and sell yourself? That's how capitalism works.
Well, it doesn't matter. The question she's saying is, why don't I get paid as much as the men? And I guess no one has the guts to say, Megan, you don't bring in nearly as much money. Your sport is not as popular. If there's anyone who should be grateful for what this country gives her and her teammates, it's Megan Rapinoe. Because as you point out, in many countries around the world, you could be the greatest female soccer player, and you'd be like, an afterthought. No one cares. No one celebrates you. You don't get any endorsements. She gets endorsements. She was in, I believe, the Naked issue of what's the ESPN magazine, or she was in the swimsuit of SI. I mean, she's celebrated by everybody. She has purple hair. She likes women.
Yeah, I remember she had a deal with Samsung. Yeah, she had a deal with Samsung. She's marketable, so it's almost like you ask the question, all right, why don't you go make all the money, and are you giving it back to some of your teammates? Because you're using the brand of women's soccer to propel yourself. You help your friends around you.
Great point,
you're trying to fight for.
Every time she comes out, and I, saying, you always hear this one too. I like this little factoid. On April 4th, 2017, we're coming up on the 4th anniversary of a big game for the U.S. women's soccer team. Do you guys know what game that was?
Did they beat France or Finland? I don't know. You tell me.
They lost. They lost. The score was
to the high school kids.
No, not high school kids. The U15 team in Dallas. FC Dallas U15. Now that means under, the U is under, correct?
Yes, under.
Under 15. The boys under 15 beat the best women in the world.
Gerry, the refs were awful in that game, though. I saw it.
Oh, that's
the
right.
Refs.
Yeah,
It was the refs.
Lucky bounce. It was windy. Their plane was late. They didn't have enough sleep. They got smoked.
It's a bullshit red card.
14-year-old boys. And I read the story last night because someone brought it to my, reminded me of it. And it's true. They said that the media, obviously, the people covering the women are just totally in the tank. It's like not even journalism, but they wrote, the women didn't really take it seriously. It was just an exhibition. Oh, sure. They got smoked by a bunch of prepubescent boys, and they didn't really care. Sure, they didn't. And now they'll be, now they're reminded of it every time they do this. It's like the track, I don't know if you saw that stat, and you're a track guy, Turtle Boy, but the fastest woman in the world in is it the 400 meters?
Allyson Felix is the fastest woman in the world in the 400 meters, yeah.
In America last year, not in the whole world, in America, there were like 300 boys that beat her best time.
Oh yeah, the fastest, she runs like a 49, high 49, and like the Massachusetts State Championship every single year will be below that. They will beat 49.
Hundreds of teenage boys, 16, 17-year-old boys who are faster.
Kids there's kids from Hingham that are faster than the fastest woman in the world. High school kids, routinely every year that will happen.
So why do we have to pretend it's not that way? Why do we have to pretend that a good high school team couldn't beat the best team in the WNBA 10 times out of 10?
We don't. That's the beauty. We can do whatever we want, and we're doing it right now.
We can. But I guess the question would be, is the White House that tone deaf that they bring out Megan Rapinoe? And I'm telling you, I'll tell you what kind of what kind of reaction I got. I got 200. Well, I got a whole bunch of responses. 250 likes to this tweet I did last night, and a bunch of responses.
Whoa! Look at you! Look at you!
But they're all usually half of them. My responses are, you suck.
Yeah, you get ratioed a lot, Gerry. I'm gonna be honest.
Yes. Well, not on this.
Because you have enemies. That's why.
But people, and they follow me. Usually, people on
they're
Twitter,
they're called Minifans.
On Twitter, generally, people are preaching to the choir. They get support because their supporters like them, and I like to have both sides. I like to fight, but on this, it's consensus. Nobody defends her for saying I should get paid as much as the men, even though they bring in 40 times more revenue. Nobody says that's good idea. Give women the same amount of money, even though they don't bring in nearly as much as the men. Everyone understands supply and demand. Everyone knows how the free market works, except this purple-headed commie, apparently, who goes to the White House to complain that she's marginalized and disrespected and dismissed because she's a woman. On the same day, the White House celebrated the confirmation of a woman who used to be a man, and if he were still a man, wouldn't even been nominated, first of all, and if he were nominated, would have lost 100-0 because he's a completely incompetent public health official. But he is now a she, and everyone wants to say, I was there when history was made. I voted for the first ever transgender, Secretary of Health, Assistant Secretary of Health. Being a woman is not a disadvantage certainly in this White House, in this current climate. And when you say it is, you are, it is just plain out laughable. You should be laughed out of the room. Megan Rapinoe, you should be laughed out of the room.
I'm going to say Megan Rapinoe could make, what do you think? Low end, 150,000, high end, 350,000 per speaking engagement. What do you think? She's literally the face of this issue. And I have to imagine if she wanted to speak, she could probably speak once a week and make a shit ton of money.
And she's a socialist, so why isn't she spreading the wealth like you said with her teammates? That's a great point, Cully. This is why we have you on this program.
Why I'm here.
Yeah.
Did you look it up? What she's worth or anything?
I did. Yeah. I think it said like $3 million is what she's worth.
That's
and it said that she only made $150,000 last year, which I think was just her soccer earnings. We're not tabulating speaking endorsements.
Like, does EA Sports have a women's soccer game? I mean, why isn't that?
Check this out. Check this out. Just look at her bio. She's sponsored by Nike, Procter & Gamble, Body Armor, Hulu, Luna Bar, Samsung, and DJO Global.
Yeah, those companies don't have any money.
Appeared in multiple promotional pieces for clothing company Wild Fang, as well as for Nike. In 2019, she co-founded a gender-neutral lifestyle brand with fellow athletes. I don't know who any of these people are. She was on Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People of 2020. This woman is the most privileged and supported female athlete in America. Would you say? Who else comes close?
I can't think of it. I can't tell you 5 more female athletes, but that's
fabulously wealthy, idolized, adored, respected, honored.
Serena Williams doesn't really she doesn't put anything out there really, so that's nothing. I'm trying to think. Yeah.
By the way, just do the radio hosts in Buffalo. Oh, let me get one down. Who got fired yesterday? They ranked women. I'll get the story, and no one else is going to talk about this today. Okay. I can promise you. Okay. Nobody on traditional terrestrial radio is going to talk about this, but it's so bizarre and so outrageous that we should mention it. That's what we're here for. We don't have a program director who's going to call us in after the show, unless Callahan does it. A Buffalo radio host ranked black women by the color of their skin.
That's not good. That's not good.
And it said it was and ranked them like toast. I don't know how that would work.
Don't do that. Don't
do that. Yeah, I'm thinking that's bad.
That's not a good idea.
It was Rob. Well, I looked to see if he's another. See what company he worked for. He worked for Cumulus. He was fired immediately, and the guys he was on the air with were suspended. He's the host of the morning show on 97 Rock, and he said he would never. He wouldn't like Serena Williams level toast. I don't even know what that means, but would be okay with Halle Berry level toast.
Oh God! Oh God! Oh, so the conversation wasn't about ranking black women. The conversation was about toast.
Ranking them, but he likes black women who are light skinned but not dark skinned. He said that on the air.
And let me guess. And all the people around him who were in the studio just like fake after all. Yes. They should all go. They
all got suspended. Oh, you're right. Gayle King is not even on my toaster level. What the? He actually said the word mulatto. This guy was the morning host.
So did Nirvana. They had a hit song. Can you even sing that song? It Smells Like Teen Spirit anymore? They say
Probably
mulatto
not.
like 100
Probably not.
times.
This guy was fired immediately. One of his co-hosts was the in-arena announcer, the PA announcer for the Sabres. He lost that job for laughing. Yes, he was the the Pagulas who owned the Bills and the Sabres fired the guy immediately as their PA announcer. It's incredible what they said without.
It's Buffalo. It's a different world. I've been to Buffalo, Gerry. There's no political correctness in that city. It hasn't come to them yet. They probably doesn't even think anything's wrong with it.
Don't they kind of keep up with the news?
No, they don't. Like the F word
and-
for homosexuals has been out for quite some time, right? Not in Buffalo, it hasn't. You go up there, you're going to be called that word constantly. It's just how they are up there. They're a different
trying
breed.
to figure out like how long they've been on the air. I mean, if this is the tone of the show, they must say outrageous things all the time.
That's not even funny though. That's got no like comedic value to it, or like that. That's just like, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's so stupid. What are you thinking?
I mean, they scrubbed the audio, but someone, of course, had it, and the internet is forever. And I don't even know how you recover from that. Like,
you don't. He just don't. He's blacklisted for life.
I mean,
well, unless you go the full Robert Byrd, there is a way out, Gerry. You just become a Democrat, and then all is literally forgiven. Literally.
I guess that's his only option, Robert Lederman, because I mean, is he going to start a podcast? What's he going to do? Is he going to go work at the Home Depot? What do you do if you're Robert?
I don't know Buffalo like Turtleboy says. I don't think you bounce back from that.
I mean, I'd have to listen to it to find out exactly what it sounds. In reading the text, it sounds so inappropriate and awkward that I find it hard to believe that they would even fake laugh at this. It's so stupid. He said he set his toaster's level to the skin level, to the skin color of the attractiveness of the women I find attractive. That's what Rob Lederman, host of the morning show, said to his co-host, Rich the Bull Gansler. Chris Klein. The Bull and Chris Klein are both suspended. Lederman was fired immediately, ranking Serena Williams, Halle Berry, and Gayle King based on his toaster level. Okay. But but don't you forget the context or the content. If someone says this, your only conclusion is too stupid to be a host. He's too stupid to understand what's appropriate, not appropriate. It's not like it's really debatable, is it? There's not like a gray area here.
I almost makes me think he's new to the business because he thinks that's something normal to say. You know what I mean? Like, I bet he's only been there a couple of years, maybe a year. And
of course, Howard Stern 20 years ago said something much, much, much more offensive than that. Every segment of every show, every day. And you point out, what do? You become a Democrat. Well, that was Howard Stern's solution.
Howard Stern was also funny. Like you have to.
No question, he was funny, but when you think back, he used the N word. He used the F word, the gay slur F word, repeatedly. Now what he does, when he's asked about it now, he says, "I never said that." He literally does the
gaslighting.
Deny. I never said it, and you've seen a few, examples on the internet where he'll say, "I never said that," and someone will dig up video of him actually saying it. The skit he did with Leon Helmsley, what's his name? Sherman Helmsley, who used to be George Jefferson. He did a skit. It's the most incredibly over-the-top, big lips and all these black jokes about whatever. Watermelon. It's just the most incredibly over-the-top thing. And it's on video. You can find it. Google it right now. You can watch it. And he'll say, "Nope, I never did it." And he'll go on The View, and he'll have, you name it, Ellen on his show, and he'll talk about, I never. And now he's so over the top in his devotion to.
At least he never said Santa Claus was white, Gerry. That's cancelable. If you ever say, that Megyn Kelly, that's all. That's her
Kelly
legacy.
Said she understood how kids used to think it was okay to dress as, Michael Jackson or Beyonce. Didn't do it, didn't endorse it, just said she could understand that people could dress as a black person on Halloween, and she didn't think. She was fired. Jimmy Fallon, who actually dressed as black people and had the fake black dialect, they're fine. So if that doesn't tell you all you need to know, but Howard Stern's gone so far down that rehab road of trying to win over potential critics by being a good hardcore. He now defends Andrew Cuomo. He's the only one out there on an island defending Killer Cuomo because he's so in his mind. It's the only way to survive. And you know what? As little respect as I have for him now, he's right.
He's
right. If he didn't completely change his image among the beautiful people and the media, which are one and the same in many cases, he'd be done right now. He wouldn't still be on satellite. He'd be done. If he was the same guy he was 20 years ago, he'd have been canceled years ago.
Yeah, but he would have made a living in the underworld. Like there is a resistance movement, Gerry, and there's like people like me survive, right? Like we're here. We're not starving. Like we're getting by. And because
you survive. He has a $50 million home on the water in Palm Beach.
Yeah, I couldn't afford that. I need some more donos.
He has $200 million in homes, just in homes, 3 homes, and they're worth $200 million. It's a little different than, you want to know a great example, Nick DiPaolo, the great comedian who is completely unfiltered, unencumbered, just says what he wants. He's canceled by everybody, by YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and he just keeps doing it. And his audience finds a way, and he makes a living, and he goes on tour when he's allowed to, and he makes a living. But he doesn't thrive because he will not play the game. He will not go full Howie Hamptons and suddenly start trying to ingratiate himself to all the right people. That's a good example. Nick DiPaolo, I don't know how much money he's making. He's not making, Howard Stern money, but he's doing what he wants to do. He's true to himself. We should talk to Nick DiPaolo again sometime soon, Callahan, because he was great. The one guest in my entire life who made me uncomfortable.
He is a character. I like him. I don't watch enough of his show, but he is a character.
He just says whatever he wants, and whether it's about race or sex or gender or whatever, I guarantee he's done segments about Rachel Levine, and he just doesn't care. Come after him, try to cancel him, he'll find a way. Like Turtleboy, much like Turtleboy, he will find a way. And you don't let it get to you, Turtleboy. You don't let it frustrate you that they never stop trying to...
Well, I did have a mental breakdown a couple of months ago, but besides that,
that's a good point. Yeah, but who doesn't?
Yeah.
Everyone I work for has those. Everyone I'm with has mental
But
breakdowns.
no, I survive. I'm like a cockroach. I would survive.
It feels like it wasn't. It was like a natural thing that just progressed and happened. It doesn't feel like you were like overly emotional about the fact that somebody tried to remove all your revenue sources.
Right. Yeah,
you don't react to that shit, which is just wild.
Because you can't whine about things. You just got to find another way. That's what you got to survive somehow. You have to figure out.
We got our first YouTube strike the other day, and in my brain, I'm like, how, why, what? And you would just, you probably gotten 50,000.
Don't get 3. You can get 2. You can't get 3. That you're done.
Is that the number? And I'm like asking Callahan, I said, what did we do? He said, we talked about election fraud.
Voter fraud. We referenced voter fraud.
We just talked about it, and it's so out of control. Big tech is so just out of control. It's frightening. I'm like, so what? We never said, they stole the election, unless we were kind of joking. But we talked about election fraud, voter fraud, and they flagged
after the insurrection. That was the problem.
After the insurrection. Yeah, I think I didn't call it an insurrection. I called it a riot, and that's not allowed either. You must call it an armed insurrection, even though they had no arms. But that doesn't matter. We don't care. Don't nitpick. It was an armed insurrection designed to overthrow the government, and Viking Man was going to be the new God King if only...
God willing.
If we only stopped the certification, we would now be... he'd be in the White House right now, the Viking Man. But instead...
Luckily, baseball season's right around the corner. We won't get any strikes anymore. We'll have a lot of baseball games to analyze.
Viking Man would at least be doing press conferences, Gerry.
That's true. Yes. He'd be down on the border.
He doesn't need handlers to tell him when to speak. He speaks when he wants to.
All right. Before we wrap this up, I got a big weekend planned. I don't know about you guys. I got a big weekend. My best friend's in prison. He's getting out. So I think he's going to be on house arrest. So we have to go to his house to celebrate. And
yes.
Gerry, you're hanging out with the homies. Gerry's hanging out with the homies that just got out on bail, on parole. Yes. Pour one out there.
Amazing.
You know what you got to do to go to prison these days? You got to do some pretty serious stuff. But I wanted to play this Ted Cruz sound because we talk about
I love
the
this
mask police. And this is just funny. Yesterday, if you haven't seen it, Ted Cruz and a bunch of other senators did a press conference. And they, as usual, there's a group of them stands in the back and one of them steps to the mic. And this was Cruz's turn. So he takes off his mask, as, by the way, everybody does. Biden does it. Harris does it. Whenever people, Rachel Levine did it. They take off their mask when they speak, right? If they don't, then you can't really understand them. Obviously, the mask is not there to protect anyone. Obviously, as Rand Paul said, it's just theater. All the senators have been vaccinated. They've all been tested. There is no threat from anyone. But as you know, the mask police don't care. It's just theater. It's just show. It shows you care about your fellow man. And the most fanatical mask people are in the media and in the Washington press corps. So what happens when Ted Cruz steps up to the mic? It's one of these Karens in the Washington press corps said, "Could you please put your mask on, Senator?" And he handled it beautifully, as he often does.
Beautiful, Ted.
Yeah, when I'm talking to the TV camera, I'm not going to wear a mask, and all of us have been immunized. So you're welcome to step away if you like. The whole point of a vaccine, CDC guidance, is what we're following.
So polite about it. I would have been like
they want to, and Rand Paul was the best when we dressed down flip-flop Fauci, but that is the way to handle it. He said, we've been vaccinated.
It would make us.
You know what he should have said? Turtleboy should see these guys behind me. They should all take their masks off. They're all
that wasn't vicious enough, in my opinion. The guy goes, "It would make us feel better." I would have said, "Oh, I apologize. See, I'm a United States senator. Nobody gives a shit what makes you feel better. Like nobody, like that does. I don't know what made you possibly think that I should ever care about what makes you feel good, but I don't. Just to be clear about that."
And by the way, they put out the call. A few people did on Twitter. I saw it. Who was that? And we have yet to find out. Right?
It can't be that hard.
An actual grown man, a grown adult man working in Washington for the media says, if you, another grown man who's vaccinated, who doesn't have the virus, who tested negative, who's never, ever going to make me sick, and by the way, is standing good 10, 12 feet away, if you put a piece of cloth over your mouth, I'll feel better. That's a grown man. And you're right. You're right. Cruz should have dressed him down the way he's capable of and embarrassed him and said, "Why would that make you feel better?" I'm just curious. What about that would make you feel better, sir?
Yeah, it's like, so what are you scared of exactly? I can't. He should have just lectured him. Like, you understand a vaccine, when you get it, it means you can't get it or give it. So why should I wear a mask? I would have made a fool of that guy, but that's just because I'm not beautiful Ted. That's why I'm a blogger. And he's a United States senator. He's a little bit more diplomatic than I.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know how he can be. And he could have absolutely embarrassed that person. And it was a man, so it wasn't going to be accused of, sexism or anything, bullying. He would have just said, what the hell would make you feel better about that? And I'm looking for his name, and I don't see it anywhere.
I've searched everywhere. I can't find his name. His name is
possible?
Whether we like it or not.
How is that possible that it's not like easily findable who that guy was? It's got to be.
I know a lot of people asked throughout the question, and I figured someone would out the guy. But there's all kinds of stories on all kinds of reports. The right-wing media saying it was great, the way the left-wing saying how rude it is to not wear. I mean, none of these guys wear masks when they do press conferences, do they?
No, I mean, they go up and they take it. Jen Psaki takes it off every time.
No, right, and that's part of the theater. Trump,
right,
Biden does it.
Even on like the CBS News every night, like 𝗵𝗵elle for months has been wearing that goddamn mask, and it's such an awful sound. They all sound like the grown-ups from Charlie Brown. That you can just tell when the mask is on. I know what mask voice sounds like now. And it's just, it's so annoying. It's starting to become a real pet peeve of mine, mask voice.
Me too. And I watch reporters. I say, you got to do a 2-minute report. Nobody's near you. This is just theater. Why don't you do your job right? Make it so people can understand you clearly and take the mask off for 2 minutes, and they won't do it.
And Gerry, I see a lot of conservative people on Twitter and social media that say, like, honestly, I would probably just get the vaccine if I knew it was my ticket out of the mask. But like, so if you should be encouraging people to get that should be the pot of gold. Like, if people are hesitant about getting the vaccine, tell them, okay, get the vaccine. You don't got to wear the mask anymore. People would do it.
I don't think I'm going to get the vaccine. You know why? Because Fauci told me it didn't matter.
Yeah, what's the point?
I was going to get it. You know, Trump told me to get it. I said, I'm going to get it. And then Fauci said, you can't get rid of the mask. You can't go see old people. You can't hug your friend. You got to stay inside. You got to distance. You can't do this. Can't do. And I said, the hell with it. I don't need anyone jabbing a needle in me if it's not going to change my life. Fauci's the worst, or I should say the best anti-vaxxer spokesman there is out there. Flip-flop Fauci. But anyway, we'll find out. How about that? We will find out which reporter said, could you please put a mask on? It would make me feel better. It won't protect me. It won't stop the virus from killing me. It'll just make me feel better, sir.
Yeah, as long as you feel better. Yeah, that's all that matters, how you feel, Mr. Reporter Man.
What a child. We have children running things in Washington, in the media and in the White House right now. But the good news is most of them are female or LGBTQ or Black or Filipino or Latinx. You know, that's important.
Yes, Latinx.
Yes, Latinx. All right, Turtle Boy, you have, we don't have time to get into them all, but you have some great stuff you've been blogging about lately, exposing some fraud, some teachers who are working with Antifa. That was a good one. You got to read that one. Did you blog about the Duxbury coach?
Not yet, but the Braintree School Committee one, I did. Go read that one.
That's true. The Braintree School Committee, some great stuff on Turtle
And by the
Boy.
way, Gerry, I don't know if you know this, Turtle Boy, I am running for school committee in the 𝗪𝗏𝗃 Regional School District. Are you aware of that? I'm on the ballot.
Excellent. So the only way to get the kids back in class is vote for Turtle Boy.
Fix the system if it's broken. You can't whine about it. You just got to fix it.
Yeah, we will participate in the campaign. We'll give your opponents equal time, whatever it takes, Turtle Boy.
You already got signatures, Turtle Boy?
I got them all. You needed 50. I got 59. Turtle Boy goes the extra mile.
Got his shit together. Wow, look at this.
59 signatures. Wow. It's almost like the Gavin Newsom recall effort. It's just relentless.
I got it in one day.
Right. We will be rooting for you and voting for you and campaigning for you. Just keep us posted. That is Turtle Boy. You can read all his stuff at tvdailynews.com, and his Twitter handle is Dr. Turtleboy. Show some respect for Dr. Turtleboy.
That's correct.
But a great follow and a great reporter. And, you read it. Every time I read your blogs, I say, if the Globe or Herald did this thing, did what you do, they would survive, they would thrive, even in this era where newspapers are relics of the past. They could survive if they thought like you do. Every reporter in the world should think like you do.
I agree.
Those stories.
I happen to agree with that.
Yeah, I knew you would. All right, have a good weekend, Turtle Boy. We will talk to you next week. And thanks to TCU and Allied Paving and Shea Concrete and